There are some amazing breakfast options along the monorail loop, and today we're going to explore another one. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome to Disney's Grand Floridian Resort and Spa, where we're going to go get breakfast from the Grand Floridian Cafe. Now look, there are so many great dining options available along the monorail loop. We've talked about some of them before. Kona Cafe, fantastic. Also, you can mobile order from Kona Cafe, which is an added bonus. Of course, Chef Mickey's is delicious. We love that. It's character dining. And then there's all the quick service options. But what about here at the Grand Floridian? We've never had breakfast here before. We've never dined at a table service location here before. So I figured now is as good a time as any. So let's make our way in, see what this breakfast is like. Also, families joining us today. They've already beat us here. So let's make our way in and catch up with them. And then we'll tell you about our breakfast. So let me start off by saying, this does not look like a standard dining review, and I apologize for that. Normally we sit down together in the restaurant and enjoy the meal together and share our thoughts in the moment. It was a little bit different today. Not only did we have family with us and we wanted to enjoy the meal with them, but it was also super loud in that restaurant. And so I figured, let's do this in a much more relaxed way. So that's what we're gonna do. But first, some basics. So today we dined at the Grand Floridian Cafe. This is a casual table service dining location here at the Grand Floridian. It's located in the lobby, which means it's really easy to find and really easy to access, especially if you're taking the monorail, because it's all in that same building. It's right next to 1900 Park Fare, which is the character dining option here. So you're probably familiar with that, especially if you've been researching dining here at this resort. It's also a short walk from the counter service location here as well. So it's really easy to find and really easy to get to. As I mentioned, this is a table service dining option, so reservations are always recommended, at least in my opinion. I will say that we made our reservations very last minute and we had a ton of options available to us, so we were able to secure the time that we wanted, which leads me to believe that you might not need to make a reservation, certainly not at that 60-day mark. This could be a last minute reservation option, but I always recommend making those dining reservations, especially if you really want to eat at a place or if you want a little bit more structure to your trip. I personally feel that having that structure eliminates a lot of stress, especially when we talk about dining, because no one wants to wait to eat. So knowing when you're going to dine and where is just a huge stress reliever on a vacation. Now, if you're considering dining here, maybe you're making a reservation, trying to decide what you want to eat because you're looking at the menu, there's something that I think is worth noting right off the bat, and that is that there are essentially two menus for this location. There's a breakfast and lunch, and then there's a dinner. And what I mean by that is that you can get breakfast and lunch menu items at the same time, and then it switches over to dinner. So if you show up at 7:30 a.m., you can get a burger or you can get waffles. It's all served at the same time. So when you're looking at the menu in the app, or even if you're looking at the menu that they give you, it can be a little bit confusing, especially with the app, because I feel like you're trying to plan in advance. Sometimes the app can be a little bit confusing. Sometimes it can have some errors on it. So you're looking and you're like, whoa, that's weird that there would be a burger and a breakfast sandwich. It's not. That's how they serve their dishes at the Grand Floridian Cafe. That makes this a perfect kind of in-between location, especially if you want that brunch type experience. Someone in your party can get that cheeseburger, someone else can get that eggs benedict, which is exactly what we did, but we'll get more into that here in a bit. Now, the dining location itself is rather small and rather tight. This is something we say a lot about dining locations here at Walt Disney World, and the Grand Floridian Cafe is no exception. They have tables, they also have what they describe as booths, but it's not a traditional booth. It's a booth on one end and then chairs on the other. So that's something to be aware of as well. You're not getting that enclosed booth space here at this dining location, even though when you're checking in, they will ask if you want a table or a booth. It's not an actual booth, which might be a little bit inconvenient, especially for those of you with little ones who like that enclosed type space. Now, I did mention that this dining location is crowded, and I didn't just mean the number of people that were there at any one time. I mean how close the tables are together. This is something that we find a little bit uncomfortable. It really feels like you're sharing a table with the people next to you. This is something that we have seen elsewhere though, so it's not something that we enjoy, but not necessarily something that stands out in a negative way compared to other dining locations here at Walt Disney World. It's kind of just the way things are right now, which is really disappointing, but that's a discussion for another day. But with that out of the way, let's talk a little bit about the food. So we actually were started with some biscuits. We thought the biscuits were good. I personally thought that they were a little bit lackluster, though they were served up with some butter, both salted butter as well as a really great citrus butter, which I thought was amazing. Others at the table felt like the biscuits weren't much to write home about on their own, but with that butter, they were standout. So I think that maybe the biscuits weren't fantastic so that the butter could really shine, and it did. Now in terms of entrees, of course there were 4 of us, so there were 4 to choose from. First we have the chicken and waffles, which was the most anticipated dish to hit the table, and quite frankly, it was the one that fell the flattest. It was also one of the most expensive dishes to hit the table at $26, which just feels really outrageous for what they served up. It was an oversized Mickey waffle with some fried chicken, and there was hot honey. We requested the hot honey on the side, which is why it was served up like this, but even if it wasn't on the side, this dish would be really lackluster. It just doesn't look like anything special. The chicken was delicious. I did try that myself. The waffle was exactly what you would expect from a Mickey waffle, which is good, but definitely not stand out. Same thing that you would get pretty much anywhere else. And that's actually one of the things that had us kind of disappointed about this dish, because we know that you can get it for half of what we paid here elsewhere. Actually, you can get something similar over at Magic Kingdom. So kind of disappointed with this dish, definitely felt like it was overpriced and under-delivered. Next up, we have the signature burger. This is one of those things that caught our eye immediately when we were thumbing through the menu, and I definitely am glad that we ordered it. The thing that I thought was so interesting about this was the brie that was on the burger. It was definitely different, definitely something we haven't seen before, and that made it stand out. And it was really good. Now this was served up with French fries. The French fries were good, but definitely were on the average side of good. I mean, French fries are French fries, right? They're delicious, but I was expecting a little bit more out of the fries that were served up here, especially again for the price point. Next up, we had their breakfast sandwich. Again, another item that stood out to us as soon as we saw it on the menu. And I do have to say, presentation was not fantastic. It honestly didn't look that good when it hit the table, and many things about this breakfast sandwich were pretty average. One of the things that stood out to us and why we wanted to order it was the house-made breakfast sausage, which we found to be really bland. It just didn't really hit the mark for us, leaving a lot to be desired. It lacked flavor, it just was kind of a meat patty, and again, we were hoping that it was going to be a little bit more. The bread, on the other hand, was a standout. It kind of pulled the sandwich together, which is interesting because I find that some of these dining locations we've been visiting have really great bread, but everything else is kind of lackluster. And I wonder if that's a pattern. We'll have to keep our eye out, but nonetheless, this didn't really impress us. Again, this was served with French fries, the same French fries that we've already talked about. They left quite a bit to be desired. Finally, we had the traditional eggs benedict. Now they also have a Florida eggs benedict that have pulled pork on them. I opted just to get the traditional eggs benedict, and it was definitely the most lovely dish to hit our table. The presentation was really good, definitely great by comparison. The plate felt full, and that made it seem like a better value than anything else that hit our table on this particular day. It also was delicious and actually stood out to us over any other dish that we tried. I do really appreciate the salad. It wasn't necessarily what I was expecting. I think it was advertised as like a marinated tomato salad, and it was really arugula heavy, and it did have some pickled onions. All of it was very good. It just wasn't quite what I was expecting. Now, at the end of the day, the general consensus is that this meal felt really underwhelming. In fact, the entire environment felt pretty underwhelming. Nothing about the location felt special, and the dishes didn't feel special either. In fact, many of us felt as though the presentation just wasn't there, and especially at the price point, That was pretty disappointing. On top of that, nothing really felt like it matched the quality of what we were expecting from this restaurant. Of course, this is the Grand Floridian, and yes, this is a casual dining option, but the price point is there. The resort is a deluxe resort, and we were thinking that this was going to be a bit more than it was, both in environment, presentation, and in what they served up. And while some elements of what they served up were good, for example, the chicken was really good, it fell flat when you put all of that together. And honestly, it left us a bit disappointed. Even so, I will say that we had the best server during this breakfast that I think I've ever had here at Walt Disney World. His name was Sam. He was absolutely phenomenal, start to finish. He was great. We were sure to put in cast compliments for him because he just made the meal. But look, we have to go back for a second and answer the question that I raised when we got started here today, and that is, does the Grand Floridian Cafe stand up to the other great dining locations here on the monorail loop? And unfortunately, I think my answer is no. In fact, that's not just my answer. We were talking about this as we were wrapping up our meal, and everyone agrees. There are so many other great dining locations here on the monorail loop that it's really hard to justify coming here over one of those locations. Now, of course, if this is a place that you want to try, we never want to steer you away from trying something that you want to try. But do I think that you should go out of your way for the Grand Floridian Cafe? No, there are just so many other unique and interesting options. I think you're better off saving your money, jumping on the monorail, and trying something else. But of course, we would love to know what you have to say. So share your thoughts in a comment down below. Also, if there's a menu item that we missed and you think is a must try, we want to hear about it. So let us know and maybe we'll make our way back. I'm really looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say, and I want to know if you think that this is a must-try location, especially over other locations around the monorail. Is this your favorite? And if it isn't, we want to know where is, whether it's around the monorail or not. There are plenty of great places to eat here, and we're looking forward to seeing what you think stands out above the rest. As always, we'll eagerly be awaiting your responses and your recommendations for great dining options. We need to do a little bit more dining. I know, it's not something that we really do all that often, but maybe we should. But anyway, for now, it's time for me to make my way out there and meet the family. I don't want them to have too much fun without me. I hope you guys will join us for our next adventure. Until then, have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.